Well, welcome to Medical Cells U. If you're listening today, maybe you have a passion to break into oncology. I'm Dave Sterrett. I'm your host. Today, I am joined with Dr. David Waterhouse, who is a leader in oncology. He drove up from Cincinnati. Dr. Waterhouse, thank you for joining the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And we have we have some extra content for our students because there are so many people who want to jump into oncology. They're intrigued with precision medicine. They don't know a whole lot, but this is an area, this is, a specialty that's changed so much. Let's tell us a little bit about your story. Why did you decide to get into oncology?
I didn't decide to get into oncology. In fact, I really tried to avoid it. I was a fourth-year medical student when my dad was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
And he had a glioblastoma, which is still a fatal disease. And so during my internship in medicine, he was sick pretty much that whole time, and he died at the end of my internship.
Oh, wow.
And I was pretty badly affected by that. He was hospitalized at the place I was doing my, things. And so I was pretty much off on cancer. And in fact, I would trade as a resident and as an intern cases. So if somebody came into the hospital, they were a cancer patient, and they were assigned to me that day, I would trade it for 2 cardiology hits.
Really?
And that was a good deal.
Yeah.
That was a really good deal for the other guy. You do 2 admissions for my 1.
That's a nice trade.
The chief of medicine got wind that I was doing that, called me into his office, and basically said, this is back in a pretty cruel era of when you were residents and stuff, all those old war stories. And he said, look, we can't have that. He said, you're going to have to get over this. And I was like, okay. And I said, it was rough. He goes, I know your dad. I know what you went through. He goes, but you're going to come off the wards for a while. And I said, okay, good. And he goes, you're going to go do oncology for the next 3 months.
Next 3 months?
And he made me go work on the cancer wards and outpatient oncology for 3 months.
Really?
At a time when it was pretty traumatic. And it was not a fun time for me.
How did you get through that? You just lost your dad and...
Because you had to. It was that or, I was going to be done. And so did it. And at that point, I thought I was going to be a cardiologist. And went and did my, rotations and everything, and then realized I really didn't want to be a cardiologist. But to, put food on the table and things, I also did a lot of moonlighting as an ER doc and urgent care doc. So I didn't know what I wanted to be. I decided I'd be an ER doc. And in fact, I probably the only ATLS certified oncologist out there. I was a helicopter guy.
Really?
Yep. And that was not very fulfilling. You don't really connect with the patients, and it's really algorithms. If you come in with this complaint, do this. You didn't get to know them. You didn't know the name of their dog or anything like that. And I was still sort of lost. And the one person who was unbelievably kind to me was the oncologist I worked with for those 3 months.
Really?
Woman doctor. She was wonderful. Marcia Liebman. She was probably one of the first of the community oncologists, actually, because she drove out to Western Massachusetts. I was at UMass. She drove out to Western Massachusetts and would hold clinics in little remote hospitals. Long before that was a thing. There was no such thing as community oncology. And I loved her. And I went and sought her out, and I said, I'm sort of lost. I'm not sure what to do. And she said, well, your problem wasn't oncology. You just hated cancer. She said, and I said, well, do you think I'd be a good oncologist? She said, yeah, you'd be a very good oncologist. And I said, so what do you want to do? I said, so she goes, well, you should do a fellowship.
Yes.
And I said, I've been thinking about it, and I was going to go into Boston, Dana-Farber, and things. And she goes, no, you got to get out of Massachusetts. I was too inbred. I had gone to college there, medical school there, residency there. I said, leave. I said, where do you go? She said, Michigan.
Wow.
And why? That's where she went.
That's where she went.
I never applied. She just made a phone call, and I trusted her enough to just say, okay, I'm going to get in a car and go to Michigan, and that's where I did my fellowship.
Wow. Well, that's
how I ended up in oncology. And she was right. I still hate cancer.
Yes.
And I still get, negatively affected sometimes by things that happen.
Wow.
But I'm very satisfied with the career choice.
Yes. You have a passion for the community setting. You've seen a lot of innovation
Yes.
in this place. For our listeners, typically you think about cancer, you think about your academic, centers. This is where there's often a university affiliated with it. And it's typically, you have these, smaller accounts community, and there's kind of this debate, and there's this feeling that sometimes those in the community setting don't get the enough attention or the specialty care. You've seen the innovation, you've led it, you've had a passion in this. And in fact, I think I heard you speak one time, you told a story about the country singer, Minnie Pearl, and the impact. And maybe you can just take us back to the evolution.
I know where this story's going.
Of community oncology and the innovation there.
So I am a champion of community oncology. Let's face it, 80 to 85% of all cancer care occurs in the community, not in academic centers. So I've always been a champion for that. In fact, at one point I tried to get rid of the name community oncology when I was in leadership positions in ASCO.
Wow.
Because I don't think there's a difference. I think that you choose what setting you're working in.
Yes.
But it's not a hierarchical
Yes.
decision. It's just what kind of location and practice setting I choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's that this one's better than this one at all. And so when I was at the University of Michigan, my love was actually for lung cancer, which when I was there was considered an untreatable disease. And I was lucky enough to have the most magnificent mentor, a guy named Ron Natale. And probably to this day still has the best bedside manner of any doctor I've ever worked with.
Really?
And I learned so much from him.
What did he do that stood out? When you say he
had
the best.
this uncanny ability to take a very complex problem, break it down into just a small amount of what's most important, and then tell that story in a language that the patient could understand. And he did it effortlessly.
Wow.
And he could do that in tumor boards. He could do it anything. Just take this and always ask the right question. And he could feel it. You could tell, and he cared. I can't say enough good things about him.
Yes.
And so I was told that was career ending to want to be a lung cancer researcher.
Really?
Because it was, if you went to ASCO at those days, which is our biggest meeting of the year, 40,000 doctors converge on Chicago every June. And the big rooms would always be breast cancer, lymphoma. And I was told, we're going to move you into one of those diseases. I said, no, I'm a lung guy. I want to do lung cancer. And they kept saying, well, you'll fail. And I heard that enough that I finally just said, well, ma'am, I'm just going to go out and work in the community. Yes. And I took a job in Cincinnati. But I also was a clinical researcher, and I really loved clinical trials. And when I got to Cincinnati, I had more patients than you ever had in your 1 or 2 days a week clinics. I had 5 days of clinic.
Wow.
I had no trials. And in Cincinnati, the only thing that was going on was NSABP. There were no clinical trial mechanisms that we could be part of. There were no large group trials or anything that was done in the community.
Wow.
So I called up friends and said, look, I don't need tenure. I don't need a paper. I want your trial. And we started opening up trials in Cincinnati.
Do you remember some of your first ones?
Oh, yeah. We first joined NSABP.
Okay.
And I didn't really know what that meant other than it was a cooperative group. I didn't understand the business of trials.
Yes.
And so the only way I could keep the business running was to accrue more and more patients. Within 4 or 5 years, we were ranked 7th in the world in NSABP in Cincinnati at OHC.
How did you get such high rankings?
We just accrued so many patients. There was a need. We filled this gap that was there. And the wheels came off the bus because we didn't have a cancer center grant. We didn't have money for the infrastructure. And so I needed a research partner. And there weren't a lot of community-based researchers out there. And I talked to Lee Schwartzberger at the West Clinic, now with One Oncology. And he was doing it. And we talked to him. MD Anderson was trying to put together a community, cooperative. They failed at it, but they were trying, and we talked to them. I talked to folks out on the West Coast. And then I met these two doctors in Nashville, a guy named Tony Greco and John Hainsworth. And literally in the basement of John Hainsworth's house, sitting down, we did a handshake deal to join what then was being called the Mini Pearl Network.
The Mini Pearl Network.
So Mini Pearl, for all the youngsters who are watching this,
yeah.
And I'm even too young for Mini Pearl, but there was a show
My grandmother liked it. My grandmother watched it.
There was a show called Hee Haw.
Yes.
And it was a variety show that was on, national TV. And their star was Minnie Pearl. She had the hat with the little for sale sign
Country
or whatever
singer.
was on the price tag. And she was second only to Lucille Ball in that era of comedians.
Yes.
And she also was a very savvy businesswoman. She owned part of the Grand Ole Opry and was involved in the recording
She's a
studios
legend.
in Nashville.
My grandmother loved her. Minnie Pearl.
And she lived in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 45 minutes south of Nashville.
Beautiful area.
And she hated driving into
Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt, yeah.
Yeah, to get her care. Why can't she just do it close to home?
Makes sense.
It doesn't make, she couldn't wrap her head around that. And
Yeah.
if she wanted to be part of trials, she had to drive into Vanderbilt, and she couldn't wrap her head around that. She basically, when she died, she had metastatic breast cancer. She gave money to these two doctors to build a community-based network. And that was the start of the Mini Pearl Network. And we were one of the original people in the Mini Pearl Network. They later changed their name to honor her to Sarah Cannon.
Sarah Cannon.
And everybody in oncology knows what Sarah Cannon is. It's the
Yes.
largest community-based research organization in the world. It is the largest phase 1 network in the world. They did a joint venture in 2023 or 24 with the US Oncology Network, turning it into the largest community-based research network. And we were part of that birth. I mean, so
That's
big
a
fan of community
fascinating story.
research.
Tell us a little bit about, for our audience who's just wanting to break into this, just the basics of why clinical trials are so important, why it's important for the community, for your people who don't live in Nashville, maybe live in Franklin or wherever, to be a part of this. And just tell us a little bit about what normally goes on and how long does it take with, just kind of walk us through the basics, because we have students, members who are watching this, and they don't know anything about clinical. It's like I didn't when I first joined.
So every one of the people watching, listening in this room,
yes,
just have to go to their medicine cabinet and open the door.
yes,
There isn't a product in there that didn't go through a clinical trial.
yes,
Your Tylenol, your antibiotics, your heart medicines, your cancer medicine, everything has to have been approved by the FDA. And that approval process begins very early. By the time a drug gets to clinical trials, today, there's already probably a couple $2 billion invested in that asset.
it's amazing.
But they haven't gotten to people. We have to make sure it's safe. We have to make sure it works. We have to make sure it works better than what we already have. And those are clinical trials. And that's the only way that we're going to keep moving forward, is to start tackling each problem, in bite-sized bites. So most of that was done at academic centers.
Yes.
But most of the care is done in the community. There was this
Yes.
gap. And only people, and that created also an equity gap,
Yes.
because only people who had the resources, had the energy, had the family support,
Yes.
had the money to go into a university setting could do this. Minnie Pearl could do it because she had the money.
She had the money, but your other person from Franklin, Tennessee.
Well,
yeah.
Franklin's
well, Franklin,
a
yeah.
wealthy place, but
Yeah, especially
but
now.
most of Tennessee couldn't.
Right.
And so bringing the trials out into the community made sense to me.
Yes.
I think actually every doc should be a trialist and every patient have the opportunity to be on a trial.
Yes.
And so I don't think I think there's still a long way to go.
Yes.
But we felt very good about the fact that we were able to deliver care. I feel very good that the work we started at OHC became infectious. There's 5 hospital systems in Cincinnati, which is rather unique. All 5 have clinical trials now as part of their service line that they're offering for cancer care.
That's wonderful.
I'm very pleased that our group started that.
That's amazing. You mentioned when you first started that people kind of try to steer you away from lung cancer. You go to ASCO and there was we
got the kiddie table.
Right. Like, and you got these big presentations with breast cancer. And, my grandfather was World War II veteran, smoked five packs of cigarettes a day, heavy smoker, died when I was 3 years old. I remember when I was 3 years old looking at him, and he had oxygen to his mask, and I never got to know him. He died at 63 years of age. I met my wife. We were dating during COVID, long distance relationship, and we got married 2021. And I realized we have a young family. Had a couple, we have 3 kids, 3 and under. My stepdaughter Sydney, she's 12, so we have 4 kids. But I remember my wife having some fears, and what happened is she started having flashbacks. Her mom was a non-smoker, well-respected interior designer here in Columbus, Ohio, and died quickly of lung cancer.
Yep.
Back then, happened so fast. There wasn't the targeted treatments. And maybe I could ask you just 2 questions. One, what drew you to lung cancer out of all these diseases, and where has that evolved in the last 15, 20 years?
So it wasn't really lung cancer that I was attracted to originally.
Okay.
It was the mentor. Ron Natale was a lung cancer person.
The one who had such the good manners by the bedside, yes.
He had that passion, and he was infectious. I got that passion because of him. And he was so passionate and dedicated and I was so loyal. I wasn't going to walk away because people said it couldn't be fixed, but rather say, okay, it's our job to figure out how to fix it. And so he was the inspiration behind it. It wasn't that I was attracted to lung cancer. There's nothing about lung cancer that's attractive.
That makes sense.
Sadly, people still look at it like it's a self-inflicted disease, even though your mother-in-law was not self-inflicted. 10% of the patients are non-smokers. 50% of the people diagnosed today are former smokers or never smokers. They quit and they still got the disease. So it's not a self-inflicted disease. If anything, it's big tobacco who was at fault.
Right.
They learned how to get you addicted.
Yes.
So there was not that piece of it. I was attracted to the process. I also don't like people saying what I can't do or that it can't be done.
The competitive drive.
That has never settled with me. If they say it can't be done, it's because we can't do it now. Doesn't mean we can't. So lung cancer, I was right there when I started, it was just when they were deciding that it was even treatable. That cisplatin and etoposide, 2 drugs that are now well known, could work, but the treatment was worse than the disease. And so there was a lot of arguments of should we treat them?
Should we even treat them?
At that time. And I've been lucky enough to be part of all that transition to going from untreatable, treatment worse than the disease, why cancer doctors have such a bad reputation, to precision medicine and immune therapies that have now given patients hope. And I think we've even changed some of the way people look at lung cancer. They don't look at people as, you deserve that, kind of thing, because that's not true. And so I think that I've been very lucky to be a part of that for the last 30 years, literally.
You use a term, precision medicine, and, maybe for our listeners who are intrigued, we've had people join my program and they've landed jobs at testing companies like Exact Sciences or Guardant, Tempus AI. We've had a number of them land. I actually broke into oncology with Foundation Medicine back in 2019.
Out of Boston.
But yes, tell us a little bit about what is precision medicine and what role does genetic testing diagnostics play in treating cancer?
So back when I was a fellow, again, they were just inventing fire and a wheel was becoming a thing. But lung cancer was either non-small cell or small cell. Later, we made the distinction between adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. But we watched that patients didn't all behave the same. Some did better than others. It wasn't easily explained. And so we always have known that these are not one disease. There's multiple manifestations of a single disease. Along came the finding of, actually EGFR was the first biomarker in lung cancer. But before that, we had seen, for example, Gleevec in CML. We saw that if you could find certain mutations, perhaps you could link that mutation with the disease process, and if you could interrupt that mutation, maybe you could have an impact against the disease. And over the last number of years, we now have 10 different actionable biomarkers saying that this is an adenocarcinoma, it has this mutation or that mutation, or it has markers on the surface that would suggest this immune therapy might help more. And so we're now starting to tailor the treatment to the cancer that's affected the patient, and that's precision medicine.
Yes.
And it started, I guess you could say it started in breast cancer with estrogen receptors.
Okay, yes.
But the world really didn't think about it in that way until lung cancer. And so we went from having the baby table at Thanksgiving at ASCO to the big rooms, and now leading how we think about cancer. That was quite a journey. So, you know, the few people who were part of lung cancer at the beginning now get the good seats.
Yes. What are you most passionate about for the future with innovation and helping lung cancer patients?
I am one of that cohort of people who actually believes AI and machine learning is going to change how we treat patients. And I think it will be in a positive way, not a negative way. Yes. But that's also tagging or coupled with the optimist in me. You can't be a cancer doc and not be an optimist. I am a pathologic optimist. I believe that people will step up and take responsibility for the tools that they're using, you know, and that we're not guiding ourselves to Armageddon.
Yes.
That we'll use them responsibly. And I think that the AI has already shown its ability to enrich drug development. It's shown abilities to help us improve clinical trial design, improve clinical trial accrual, clinical trial matching, getting the right patient on the right drug at the right time. All of these things are being enriched by it, and I think we're just beginning to tap into that potential.
Yes. You and your son have actually given a couple presentations on this, and a question that comes up, I know that you're passionate about, is this issue of trust, because right? Because AI can get it right, but sometimes it gets wrong, and sometimes there's
it's wanting to please you.
Right.
So if it can't please you, it makes up something.
If I'm discouraged, I just talk to ChatGPT. I don't even need my counselor, right? Like it's like, but how do we bridge this gap with trust and knowing that AI can be a very effective tool? Give us some of your thoughts about that.
So, my youngest son and I wrote a paper about this. He's not an oncologist. He graduated with a marketing degree, only to find out that there was no one hiring marketing people because AI had taken over the job. And we started talking about AI, and he said, "I can't believe you even trust it." And I was like, I won't say I trust it, but I want to understand it so I can trust it, because I believe understanding and knowledge is what drives trust.
Yes.
And so he said, well, you know, patients don't really all completely trust it. They're not even completely trusting the healthcare system, and they're now starting to lose faith in their doctors.
Yes.
Then you have the doctors are not sure how much they trust it, and neither one recognizes that it's being used all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and in marketing, they call that a trust gap. So we wrote a paper on the AI trust gap. The paper was very well received, which led to invitations to talk about it, which has actually been a lot of fun. If anyone needs a talk on AI trust, we can do it.
How do we, we have so much information. There's different types of AI, right? Like I go to ChatGPT, but I always say, for longer, sometimes I go over to Claude. And then I for our members who are in our program, we always say, when you're creating your business plan, your 30, 60, 90, and we say, you can use ChatGPT to say, let's include some things in your business plan. Let's include the clinical trial that received the FDA approval, the primary and secondary endpoints, or just some basic terms. Who's the competition? But you also have to go to the website of that company to do your research, because sometimes AI gets it wrong. And we also want to be comfortable that we own whatever we're talking about, that we're not just dependent upon what ChatGPT spits out at us or whatever. Trust is an issue from whatever standpoint. I tell you, I come from the faith world and I'm a Christian, and yet there's been horrible things done in the name of God in that area.
Yes.
In medicine, I took a course at Johns Hopkins. One of the large pharma companies I was with paid for me to MBA course. Yep. And still the distrust towards doctors. You guys have spent years studying, research, and yet this. So give us some practical thoughts of how do we rebuild trust? How do we overcome the trust gap?
Okay, since this is for your students or prospective students, or people who are trying to break in, one thing I would say is AI is here. It's not going away. Mm-hmm. And you can choose to either be a victim, or you can choose to be one of the people who works with it as a partner. Mm-hmm. And when we give our talks to doctors, I tell them AI is not going to necessarily replace you, but it is going to be your partner. And it's not a partner like an algorithm. It's a partner. You have to treat it like one. Yes. Your partners are not perfect.
I like that.
And therefore, yes, I want to trust them, but I also have to look over their shoulder. I need to be able to trust them. They're there to show up, but you can't rely on everything they do. You are ultimately the one responsible.
Yes.
And so you have to understand it. You need to speak the language. You have to start learning. And it's not hard to keep learning every day. I spend as much time now learning about AI and AI tools as I do learning about drugs.
Really?
Drugs are coming at every doctor now faster than they can absorb them. Mm-hmm. The development, this is why I'm optimistic.
Yes.
There are more assets out there than there are patients for trials. This is why we have to improve trials. Only 5% of our patients are ending up on trials. 7%, somewhere in that low number. We have to improve that. There are more drugs than there are patients. And so there are more drugs coming out and getting FDA approvals. You can't know everything. And if you think you can, you're going to be dangerous.
Yes.
So you have to start learning, how will I learn? How will I learn effectively and efficiently? And AI does help with that. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to give the drug to a patient, I'm not going to give it without doing a little bit of background work, learning about the drug, learning the side effects. I'm not just going to hand them a sheet that I generated with AI and say, here, make a thing for the patient. No. I will take responsibility for what I do.
Yes. You said so many interesting things just now, and I'm just processing it. AI is speeding it up. We don't have enough patients for clinical trials. We need to get more patients.
We have enough patients. We don't have a process that gets them.
A process? How can we fix that process?
Well, I have all sorts of opinions on that. I going back all the way to, not every great care is going to be at a university setting.
That's true.
There are patients who can't access that. There are people who don't want to access that. We have to bring the trials to the patients.
I love it.
We have to go where they live in their support system, because it's not just the drugs that save them. They have families, they have friends, they have a community. And to take them out of that is not healthy. And so I think that's an important piece of the whole process, the drive to the community.
Yes.
And I will remain, this doesn't mean I'm against academic centers. We need academic centers as well. We're all part of the same team. Mm-hmm.
But we need to meet the patients where they.
Yeah, but we got to bring the drugs to the patients if we're going to be successful. In terms of, again, going back to why you're here.
Yes.
Doctors are going to need more help from pharma. Mm-hmm. They're going to need more help from the reps. They're going to need more help from the MSLs. none of us can keep up. If you think you can keep up, you will become the most dangerous person on the planet. It does take a team. And, again, trying to help with some of the stuff you do, you asked me in a thing, what makes a rep valuable to me?
Yes.
What is it I really want? I don't want a sale. Don't sell me. I don't need a salesman. I need a partner.
Yes.
I need a friend. That's what I like. You don't have to sell me the day you see me. You have to let me know you're there. But by telling me you're there, I mean really be there.
Yes.
I'll give you an example.
I was going to ask for one. This is good.
Yeah. So last year, Amgen came out with the drug tarlatamab.
Okay, yes.
Really changed the landscape for patients with small cell.
Yes.
Probably it is the biggest innovation in small cell in my career. And we were part of the clinical trials that launched that drug, so I'm very proud of OHC for the work we did to bring that drug out to market. The drug went commercial, and the world wasn't ready for that. It got its approval way faster than everyone thought, and it has some requirements for observation things. Not everybody could do it. We could. There was a patient right up around here. Actually, they were in Dayton, and about an hour, 45 minutes south is Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The rep knew about the patient, knew that there was nowhere near there that they could get the drug. And they called me up and said, is there any chance I can send them down to you? The person's in trouble. And I said, yeah. It was a Friday afternoon. Can they get there today? And they said, well, how about Monday? Okay, Monday morning. And we had them on drug within a week. That rep didn't have to do that. In fact, that rep did that to some extent at risk because he was going to suggest to the doc to send their patient to someone else.
Yes.
Which,
what a great rep.
That isn't, to me, you want to build trust? That's the way to build trust. That rep is something special. And, that was where, they said, okay, I'm going to put the patient first. So it's very simple, guys.
Yes.
The rules are very simple in our world. Patient first.
Yes.
Organization second. Provider third. Always. If you don't break that rule, you'll have a great career.
And shout out to that Amgen rep who did the extra step to do what was best.
But the good ones all do that.
Yes.
They all do.
Yeah.
They show up when you're dosing your first patient.
Yes.
They teach your staff. I know that people think of it like wrong. Why would a lunch?
Yes.
Which I've never understood. General Electric selling an engine to Lockheed. Yeah. You can bet that the two guys went out to dinner and had a bourbon.
Sure.
And yet somehow it's wrong if our staff is overwhelmed with the number of people we take care of. And there's not enough providers in the oncology world to take care of them. That you guys show up with lunch.
Yes.
That is an act of kindness.
Yes.
It's not a sale. No one's going to use your drug because I got
and you mentioned
a burrito.
Yeah, you mentioned there's that part, because we have people who are brand new trying to break in. They're thinking, I got to sell to the doctor, to oncology.
No, you don't.
But let's talk about building trust with the staff, with the nurses, the ones who are administering the drug.
If you just show up and help when they need help.
Yes.
It's okay to create awareness.
Yes.
Hey, did you know that this drug is now out there? I know you don't see a lot of whatever disease it is.
Exactly.
But you just need to know, when you get the next one, just look it up or whatever. Or you need a question, call me. So creating awareness, very helpful.
Yes.
Don't go into the details though. I don't have a patient right now. It's not relevant. I'm not going to remember it.
Yes.
But when I need it, that's when I know who to call. And you start developing these relationships. You and I had this relationship.
Yes.
I've always been good to reps. I try to be.
Have been.
I've always wanted to be because they are part of the team.
Yes.
In a different way, but they're part of the team. And I'm not shy at all. I'll call them up or I'll call the MSL and say, I need some help here. We're about to do A, B, or C, and I need to do it right.
Yes.
Or I need information. Can you find it for me?
In the MSL, those of you who have your PhDs, and maybe you've thought, I would go into academia. These are great roles. Some of you, we have nurse educators. We just had a nurse who broke in as an oncology clinical educator with Sun Pharmaceuticals, and she's a resource to those nurses, to the staff. And so it's not always in pharma is sell. And that's what I tell our members is like, sometimes they come to us and they have this like can-do attitude and this is, kind of this grit, and that's important, but to be a resource, to be there when the first patient is there, what is needed, to ask questions. Dr. Waterhouse, you give...
The reps sell. The drug is either going to work and it's going to be used or not. You have no control over that.
That's true.
You don't have to sell the drug. The drug and its powers are going to be either what sells it or not sell it.
Yes.
You get in the doorway by being a resource, by being someone who you look forward to seeing too. Hey, how you doing? Like I said, we were talking before all this about dogs and things.
Yes.
How's your dogs?
Yeah.
Remembering that kind of stuff. You build friendships.
Right.
And
it's so true.
That's what builds trust.
Well,
not can you sell, but can you be there when you're needed? I've seen reps where a nurse has said something and they literally show up later that afternoon with literature for them to take home or something for a patient. They didn't have to do that. No one would have known they did it. You were an athlete. The Gooden quote about it's what you do when no one's watching.
That's so good.
That is the character. And the really good reps, the really good MSLs, the other people who are breaking in, it's what they do when their boss isn't watching.
Yes.
That is what counts.
It's so true. And you've seen this, and as a physician, you're implementing these principles too. It's not just, and you are on some big stages, but you're also, every single patient matters. I've seen the way you've interacted with nurses and others as well, the respect that you show to them, the respect that you show to us pharmaceutical reps in the community. Can you talk to us, let's kind of jump a little bit into the personal. Can you tell us a little bit about what you are doing as far as your speaking a little bit this year? You mentioned you have a couple events coming up. And
so I do speaking for Pharma.
Yes.
And it's weird, you will hear, I don't know if this gets edited out or not, but they'll call it a drug whore or something like that. Yeah. I've never felt that way. For one, I give a lot of that money to the Conquer Cancer Foundation, which is the charity of choice for me. But it also is education. And as I said, it's like drinking from a fire hose these days. Sometimes it's nice to sit over dinner and just talk about something and how are you using it. I usually will only talk about things that I do know something about. Yeah. I'm not doing it because I'm loyal to this one or that one, but rather these were often drugs that I was involved with clinical trials. And at Sarah Cannon, they were very good about teaching us that the trial does not end with the publication. That's when it begins. Because it's one thing to have the publication. You may have a New England Journal of Medicine, great article. It doesn't mean a thing unless the drug gets out in the patients. And so going out there and helping to educate the world and to make people feel safe. So tarlatamab, a good example. Yes, I speak for Amgen. I help practices learn how to integrate the methods needed to be able to use that drug in their setting, often community settings, and make them aware of the fact that they are good enough and are capable enough, because everyone tells them they're not a university. Doesn't matter. You can do it. You can do it right in your own backyard.
And you give the confidence.
So I speak for them. I told you we talked about doing some talks with my son, which that's a passion. That's just love. Yeah. I've had more fun getting on stage with my youngest.
You told me about a closing of one of his talks. That was...
he killed it.
Yeah.
He killed it.
Can you share that with us a little bit?
So we were talking about trust, and we had talked about how patients are struggling, doctors are struggling. We created a framework for how you can close that gap and things that you can do. And as I said, we wrote a paper on that. If you Google my name and put trust gap, you're going to find it. The talk we gave is about how doctors can accept that responsibility and take it to the next level. And he closed out the very first talk. He told me that he wanted to be the closer.
Okay, yeah.
Even though I've given about a gazillion talks, and he had not. He said, I want to close this out. And I said, okay. And again, it goes to trust.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to trust you. Behind us came up all these Greek letters behind us, and my son got up and said, I am not a doctor. You all know that because we've been talking here for the last 45 minutes. He goes, I'm hardly even a patient. He's only 25 years old. He said, but I'll bet you there's some of you in the room that recognize that's Greek. He said, there may be even one or two of you, this is a packed room. And he goes, may recognize that as the Hippocratic Oath. And he goes, you realize, of course, that only you have taken it. Only doctors have taken this oath to the patient. You have a bond with the patient, you have a bond to each other because you took this oath. And he said, so now AI is coming along, and everyone who wants to integrate that did not take that oath. In fact, they have a fiduciary responsibility to someone who is not your patient. And he said, so when it proves that you can save time, are they going to give that time back to you to spend with your patient?
Good question.
Or just ask you to see another patient? When it saves money, are they going to share that with you? Are they going to make it easier on the patient? Or are they going to just put it into profit?
Great question.
He said, and there's many other issues. He said, this is why you have to take responsibility. Only you can do that. Only you have that oath. And I thought, oh my God, he's a born speaker.
What a powerful charge.
Insight, that was all him.
And
was
just to
not
throw up
me.
the Greek in the background and just give that charge to the physicians that they took the oath.
And it's enlightening but disturbing at the same time because he's right.
Yeah, it's very true. And it's a reminder to all of us, we may not have taken that oath, those of us who are perhaps pharmaceutical, but we owe those principles that are true to the Hippocratic Oath, that we do the patient no harm. We treat the patient first. We give, and we don't try to sell, but we try to ask the right questions and come alongside physicians
So
and be a
you
partner.
asked about how you were in trust?
Yes.
If everything you do reflects the patient as your North Star, it won't take long for people to realize that's how you think, that's how you act, that's how you behave. And that does earn trust. The founder of my group, a guy named Dick Levy, since passed to Parkinson's, one of the most marvelous men. You know, again, if to the people going in this, find mentors. Find people like this, because that's whatever. He was amazing. I came out of my fellowship. I had been on faculty at Michigan. I knew nothing about the business of medicine. And when I interviewed with him, he said, what are you afraid of? And I said, I'm not afraid of patients. I said, I'll be a patient magnet. I can see patients. I love seeing patients. They will love me. Your referring docs will love me. That's not my fear. I don't know anything about business. I'm not even good at balancing a checkbook. And I go, how did you build a business? And he said, business is actually very easy. He said, I have a single rule, and if I follow it every time, I'm going to be okay. And he said, that's when the patient first, organization second, provider third.
Love it.
And in the years I worked for him, years and years, I never once saw him violate that principle. Never once.
Patient first, organization second.
And he would go to the
provider third.
mat if there was a conflict over that. He said, when you are putting the patient first, you have the moral high ground. He said, I'll take on anybody.
Wow.
And he did. He took on a lot of people, a lot of organizations.
What a great mentor he was
Yes.
for you.
Wonderful person.
Wow. We're finishing this section up. Dr. Waterhouse, just a couple personal questions about you. Tell us about your dogs.
Well, they're not my dogs. They're my wife's dogs.
Your wife's. Okay. All right. You said you were up this morning at like 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife, everybody has to have a passion.
Yes.
Mine is medicine. And My wife is dogs. She came from a family. Her mother was the matriarch of a whippet, a breed of dog called whippets.
Okay.
Think of a
Whippets.
mid-sized greyhound.
Okay. Yes. Whippets.
And she grew up around a boarding kennel and groomers. And, that was their home business. And her mother took her to dog shows from the time she was a little kid. And my wife grew up with that. And she now eats, sleeps, and drinks dog shows,
Wow.
breeding, and care. And we have a kennel built into our house.
How many do you have right now? How many dogs?
Well, the running joke in our family has always been, my wife will always answer this question. Call me crazy, I have 6.
6.
And everyone goes, 6 dogs, you are crazy. She never tells the number, so I can't tell you the number, but it's more than 6.
More than 6.
She's very good at it. She cleaned up this last weekend in Chicago, or just outside of Chicago, at a dog show in Tinsley. I have a picture of all these ribbons that she takes in.
She won.
5:00 this morning, that's when, I'm the bucket bitch. I go downstairs and I help her. Right now, I'm on injured reserve.
Yeah,
I had back surgery, so I can't do much in the kennel.
Yes.
But our normal routine is 5 a.m. down to the kennel, letting all the dogs out, letting the dogs in, feeding the dogs, cleaning up wherever there's a cleanup need, doing all of that. Then when she's about 3/4 of the way through the rotation of all the dogs, she sends me to Starbucks. I get the 2 of us coffee. I get back in time for her. She's all done. We sit and have a cup of coffee together, and then I go to work. And then we've been doing that every morning since I can remember.
What a great routine. I'm amazed with how much you do. And with your busy schedule and the patients you take care of in your leadership and helping your wife with the dogs, thank you so much for making the drive all the way up here.
I'm lucky my wife puts up with me, to be honest.
Wow, thank you. It's amazing. So thank you so much, Dr. Waterhouse.
I enjoyed this.
It's great
Thank
to
you.
have you a part of our program.
To anyone out there who also is thinking about this is not, I don't have to be a salesman. I will tell you, this is authentic, you are real, and you do help people. I know that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. If you're trying to break into medical device or pharmaceutical sales, or maybe you're ready to reinvent yourself into a new specialty like oncology, our program, Medical Sales U, can help.
I'm extremely grateful for Dave Starrett and his program, Medical Sales U.
I'm now making $60,000 more than I was as a pharmacist.
I highly recommend the program. I just landed an incredible dream job.
Our members come from every background: nurses, pharmacists, teachers, athletes, and they're breaking in fast, averaging $151,875 in 11 and a half weeks. Many are earning over $200K. The industry is changing lives. You can change lives. Check us out in Medical Sales U. Invest in yourself, and let's get you in the game.